Hey everyone, it's Mr. Nunn with English 10. Today I'm just going to go over these slides on reading Shakespeare. It's just to let you know how we're going to go about reading the text of Julius Caesar. We'll probably start reading next week, but here we go. So first, in reading Shakespeare, don't be afraid. Right? It can be hard, but it's not impossible. So don't expect that you're going to understand everything. When reading Shakespeare, everyone always comes away with something new. That is, when you reread it a second time or third time, you always get something new out of it. So even though I've read Julius Caesar more than 15 times or 20 times, every time I find something new or interesting in the language. The language is old, but it's still considered modern English. That is, it uses the same grammar that we use today. So it's not really that far off, although it does use archaic words like thou and knave, which means fool, or saucy. Some of the words are really cool to hear them, these older words. It also uses inversion, otherwise known as Yoda speak. Like do or do not, there is no try. Basically, it's where some of the words are kind of switched around, or the verb is moved towards the end of the sentence, and that's how it sounds. So if you listen to Yoda from Star Wars speak, he sounds like very Shakespearean. One of the cool things about Shakespeare is that it's witty. That means he uses lots of puns or words with double meanings. He uses also this thing, it's called chiasmus a lot, that you might look for. So here's an example. Pardon, Caesar, Caesar pardon. So it's where you use words starting out with A, B, but then you reverse and the words go out the opposite way. An example from a rapper, LL Cool J, would be a strong record, a record for the strong, right? It gives the meaning of the words more depth and richness. When we read, there's going to be some options for reading. And as you read, I'd like you to watch or listen to the text on audio as you're looking at the text and reading it. The actors in the audio that you hear will clue you into the meanings. You'll get a better understanding of what's going on because of the emotion in their voices. For the text, there are two options. One is the textbook version, and the second is No Fear Shakespeare. So you'll want to think about which one you like. I'm going to show you both of them here. The audio will look like this. It'll be broken up into acts. There are 5 acts in the play we're going to read. So we'll start off with Act 1. Here's what the textbook version looks like. So on the left-hand side, you'll have the dialogue between the characters. On the right-hand side, there is explanation of like older words or some words that have double meaning or stage direction or things like that. So here it says, and clapped their chopped hands. Here, chopped means their hands were chapped or raw. Nightcaps here means that he's mocking the hats of these working men. But soft, I pray you, what did Caesar swooned? So soft means wait a minute. You might remember Romeo saying, but soft, what light from yonder breaks, or something like that. Swooned means to faint. And you'll learn here that Caesar has this thing called the falling sickness, which is epilepsy. So this text is, I like this text a lot because it has a lot of explanation and you can really get a lot of meaning out of the text. Back when I was in high school, we just had this text on the left. There wasn't much of an explanation, so it was really hard to interpret any of it. Another version you could choose is No Fear Shakespeare. So if you choose to read this version, on the left-hand side, it has the actual Shakespearean language, so the old language or Shakespearean. On the right, it has a modern day translation. So, but soft, I pray you, what did Caesar swoon? Translation, but wait a minute, please. Did you say Caesar fainted? Right, so it has a line by line translation. The difficulty with this is here you have the translation, but if you're listening, the audio will be what you hear on the left, not what's on the right-hand side. So it's up to you to choose either this version or the textbook version. One or the other, it's up to you. You might even switch between the two, or when you're really having difficulty, go and look at the translation, and that can help you understand something that you're listening to or that we're reading. Following the reading of each act, after we've finished an act, then I'll ask you to go and watch this 1953 version of the film, Julius Caesar. It stars this guy, Marlon Brando. He does not play Caesar. He plays a guy named Antony, but his performance is excellent. Really great actor. He does a great performance. And I choose this film because I think it's the best version of it, and the performances are great, even though the film is 1953 and it's black and white. It follows the text pretty closely. So daily, following each day, each day's reading, there'll be study guide questions in Schoology. These will focus largely on plot, characters, some literary elements, things like symbolism, metaphor, or puns, or any other kind of literary language. After watching the film and at the end of each act, there will be a quiz, and those also will largely focus on plot and characters. Getting started with Shakespeare or any story is the hardest because you have to get to know who the characters are, what's the setup of the story, and things like that. So just a quick look. Here are some of the characters in Julius Caesar. So this is in the first part of the text that we have. Of course, the main character, Julius Caesar. But one thing you'll notice is there are lots of names that are the same or overlap. So you'll want to kind of try and distinguish between Octavius. Caesar's a last name, right? It's a family name. Julius Caesar, Octavius, they're related, but they're both called, one will be called Octavius. Caesar will be called Caesar in the story. Marcus Antony or Mark Antony. Some of the hard characters to differentiate there are a lot of names that begin with C. So Caesar, Cicero, Cassius, Casca, Metellus, Cimber, Cinna. So these names are hard to distinguish, the hardest, I think, because they all kind of sound sort of similar. So initially will be to try and figure out who is Cassius, who is Caesar, who is Casca, how are those characters different? That's what you'll want to think about. That's it. Hope to begin reading probably next week on Tuesday, but have a good day.